In discussing the potential fate of Thrawn following the season finale of Rebels earlier last week, I believe that the ultimate fate of the Chiss Grand Admiral is easier to foreshadow than that of Ahsoka's. As someone who thought that it was likely that Ahsoka's story in Rebels was over following the Season 2 finale and would be left to be told in other mediums, the final 4 episodes of the show opened the door to a number of possibilities that the story of Ahsoka could take in the future. And it isn't just in the timeline after the Galactic Civil War and the Battle of Jakku with the downfall of the Empire. Based on what we've seen in the TV series and some information that's come out after the finale, Ahsoka's story on Malachor could be one of the most important for Anakin's former apprentice. In this video expose, I will explain what Ahsoka's fate could be following the season finale of Rebels. First, I think it's important to start with the fact that when she goes through the portal from the world between worlds back to Malachor, while Ezra is taken back to the standard timeline of Rebels in which he left, Ahsoka goes back to her own timeline, just following her duel with Vader. This creates a gap between Ahsoka and the timeline of the series of about 2 years, as the liberation of Lothal happens in roughly 1 BBY, and the mission to Malachor occurring in roughly 3 BBY. It's important to point this out for 2 reasons. First, it demonstrates a wisdom within Ahsoka that Filoni has used to increase the importance of her understanding that she had to go back to Malachor for some unknown purpose. As Filoni has recently stated in an interview, she's smart enough to know that she cannot go back with Ezra. She knows that she has to remain a part of her world and her timeline, because she doesn't know what she's skipping and who she's not going to help, or what she has to do independently of all that. A lot can be read into our God Emperor's words here, but there is the setup that Ahsoka knows there's a larger calling that's waiting for her back within her own timeline on Malachor, something independent of her friends on Lothal and within the Rebellion. The second reason why it's important to point out that Ahsoka goes back to her own timeline roughly 2 years prior to when Ezra exited the world between worlds is that it's important that we never see Ahsoka go back to help the Ghost Crew at any point within the timeline over Season 3 and Season 4 of Rebels. She doesn't assist them in the Battle of Atollon or the liberation of Lothal once she catches up to those events in the timeline. Given that we know that Ahsoka ultimately does intend to keep her promise to Ezra made in the world between worlds that she'll find him once she gets back, I think we can conclude that in going back to Malachor, Ahsoka undertakes some type of journey that's so important to her fate that she never again appears in the fight with the Ghost Crew against the Empire, which directly leads to her clear change in the finale. This would be a journey that she never really, quote, gets back from until we finally see her again in the last shot in the final episode of the show, at least 8 years after she came out of the portal in the world between worlds. But what exactly is this journey, and what happens to her upon her return to Malachor? I believe that the best idea we have is from the set of Topps trading cards created by Filoni himself. I'm sure a lot of you have seen these by now, but in case you haven't, they were a set of 10 cards released at Celebration Europe in 2016, following Season 2 of Rebels. As Filoni describes them, they're images that explain the end of the Season 2 finale regarding Ahsoka and Vader visually and metaphorically. But here's the important point about these cards. Not only do they metaphorically express what the end of the Season 2 finale is about, but they're also in a way a literal telling of the story of Ahsoka in the final episode of Season 2, which has also now been expanded upon in Season 4 of Rebels, and most importantly, what is yet to come for Ahsoka after the series finale of the show. Let me explain. We can create an order for the cards representing the story of Ahsoka as it's unfolded during and after her duel with Vader in the Season 2 finale. First, we see Ahsoka ignite her lightsabers to duel Vader, with the next 2 cards in the order being Ahsoka slicing off a piece of Vader's mask to reveal the true identity of Anakin, and then a continued showdown between the former master and apprentice. But here's where it gets interesting. The next card I would put in our order here is the one of Ahsoka standing before the doorway surrounded by wolves, as it best represents her being pulled into the world between worlds by Ezra. The 5th card in the order would then be Vader walking away from the explosion of the temple on Malachor, as we know that that's what occurred within the timeline once Ahsoka was rescued by Ezra. Of course, we then have the card of Ahsoka appearing before the triangular entrance back on Malachor, representing her exiting the World Between Worlds and rejoining her own timeline. All 6 of these cards have been represented visually in the actual Rebels TV series, in both Season 2 and Season 4. What hasn't been shown yet on screen, or within any other medium for that matter, would be the last 4 cards in our order. These would of course be the most important in answering the questions we have regarding Ahsoka between the time of her walking towards the triangular entrance on Malachor and in the final shot we have of her in the finale. So what do these last 4 cards symbolize for Ahsoka following her last appearance in Season 4 of Rebels? Clearly, she goes on some kind of important journey based on the significant change in her appearance from Episode 13 to the finale of Season 4, which is pretty drastic. The cards show Ahsoka enter and journey through what appears to be a river, to come out the other side and descend upwards through a staircase. It's important to remember that the cards aren't necessarily showing what happens to Ahsoka literally, and have been used by Filoni to suggest what's happening to her character metaphorically, which I think is even more important for these last 4 cards than any of the other ones. This is something that Filoni has pointed to recently in trying to explain what happens to Ahsoka's character after her return to Malachor. In referring directly to the cards and Ahsoka's journey on Malachor, Filoni has stated recently following the end of Rebels, "I tried to do it all in a very symbolically suggestive way, and there are a lot of elements in those images that are trying to be evocative of a transformative nature in a journey, which is kind of a symbolic journey of a transition from death back to life, having to walk through the world of the dead into the world of living." So we don't know exactly what the journey is yet, and really, I don't think that Filoni or anyone else working on the potential stories for Ahsoka really have it thought out completely at this point, but it's clear that Ahsoka is going to go through a transformation and a transition that symbolizes a rebirth of the character. I believe that the cards representing that journey really are more symbolic than literal here, as it's likely her journey will be one more of meditation and searching inward rather than having to physically traverse something on Malachor, given that Filoni also went on to say that the journey for Ahsoka is one that needs to be thought about more than actually experienced. It would be quite an amazing tie-in to the Season 2 finale if Ahsoka's ultimate fate upon Malachor involves the attainment of knowledge, allowing her to ascend to another level of understanding of the Force and herself. It should be remembered that her primary suspicion of why Yoda sent her, Ezra, and Kanan to Malachor in the first place was the search for knowledge. It would also be great if her journey continued to put her on a different path than that of the Jedi, given that the planet was off limits to the Jedi of the Old Republic, as confirmed by Ahsoka and Kanan to Ezra in the Season 2 finale. A continued path of Grey, or even becoming a new type of Warrior of the Light as a result of her journey on Malachor, would be amazing to see revealed. Regardless, given the reference by Filoni that Ahsoka will be undertaking a journey resulting in a transition from death back to life, and given her appearance in the finale, an appearance that's been confirmed to be specific to her journey, it's clear that the character will undergo a profound change. This makes it one of the stories that I'm looking forward to seeing the most following the series finale of Rebels, right up there with the potential Thrawn and Ezra storylines. So there we have it, what we could see Ahsoka's fate be following the series finale of Rebels. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions? Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. Or perhaps follow us on Twitter at SW Reading Club for updates regarding the channel. Or support the channel through Patreon for access to exclusive hangouts and book discussions. If not for me, for profound change, and no change at all.